Hello and welcome to the Unpublished Writers Club, the podcast for aspiring authors, writing enthusiasts, or any creative out there. Whether you're just at the start of your writing journey, on your way to being published, or just curious, everyone has a place here to connect, engage, and perhaps learn a thing or two. I'm your host, Zia Mowbray, a final year uni student who, over the past 5 years, has been learning, failing, and putting themselves out there for the sake of making a career out of writing. And so, while I'm still at the start of my writing journey, I thought I'd bring you all with me and share what I've learned and am in the process of learning to make your navigation of this journey just a little bit easier. In today's episode, we will be unpacking my personal favorite free resources for aspiring authors, because things don't have to cost money to be of value. As someone who has spent the past few years doom scrolling authors' long deserted blogs, waking up at 5 a.m. to attend online writing workshops, and signing up to every storage-sucking newsletter a company offers, I know I found some gems. And guess what? They don't cost you anything. Before we get into the episode, I want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea, and community. As the original and enduring storytellers, I wish to pay my respects to their elders past and present, and extend that respect to any Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples listening today. Now let's get into it. If there is one single resource that I recommend for aspiring authors, it is Reedsy. It is an incredible book editing platform where you can upload your manuscript and have different chapter sections, different parts within chapters. So it's incredible for formatting, but also including features such as writing goals, word counts, and planning out your booked acts and character development and those sorts of finer details that you just really can't get when you're trying to put pen and paper without your entire workspace becoming overloaded with paper and plans. They also provide a platform to connect with professionals. They say that there are over 2,000 editors, 28 publicists, 1,000 designers, and so much more. I haven't used this feature of the Reedsy platform specifically myself, but I thought I'd give it a mention just in case people needed that kind of connection and help out there. But again, not all of us are here just to write novels, so for those of you who aren't up to that stage or never planning to, Reedsy is a one-stop shop for so much more than just that writing platform. First of all, it includes a blog with step-by-step instructions, videos, and categories from perfecting your craft, book design, to behind-the-book author stories. It also has writing courses, which come with daily or weekly emails, which are fantastic, especially to get just a bite-sized learning opportunity rather than a full course all at once. I signed up to like 10 of them in the one go, which meant that I could do about an hour of work every morning when they all filed in at 7 a.m. and get a good scope on different topics without having to get too in-depth with them all at once. They also have webinars, which is really cool because if you get in them live, a lot of them will provide the opportunity for you to submit some form of your work for them, the presenters, to edit or acknowledge and critique in a way, which is a very fun feature, especially if you want to get out there more but are a little afraid, I guess, to step in that in-person mentorship. They also record every single webinar too, so you don't need to wake up at 5 o'clock like me because most of them aren't in Australia. It's not Australia time, so just don't worry, hit the snooze button on your alarm and wait for the recording to come back out, because then you can take it at your own pace, unless that is you really want to get that feedback for a certain topic, which is put out before the actual webinar goes live, so you have the opportunity to pick and choose what you want to go to. Further, Reedsy does prompts, weekly competitions, so much more. Like, you do not understand the moment that you start going on this website, you will go down an intense rabbit hole of incredible information. It's just overall the best. Like I said, one-stop shop, because I haven't found any other platform that encapsulates so much for free. It's incredible. In fact, I almost considered not going to university once I finished high school because of Reedsy, because I found it had such great information and so in depth that I considered making myself a summer course for Readsy, and with the Readsy information and webinars and classes and things, and having that be my education for going into the writing field rather than university. My next resource that I would definitely recommend is Substack. This one is kind of new to me still, and I think it's new in the space in general. However, I have found a lot of the authors that I follow are really starting to jump on board with this platform as well. Basically, it's just a normal platform very similar to YouTube or Twitter or Wattpad even, for sharing content such as short stories, even small published works, chapters of a novel perhaps, whatever you choose to put out there, and it goes straight into your subscribers' inbox. You can have paid subscribers or free subscribers or both, and juggle however you want to make that work for you. But I have found that this is an incredible resource to start sharing your work and get that feedback and engagement and build your community. They've also recently enabled the feature to do podcasts on Substack as well as video content, so it's a vastly growing platform. And before, I mentioned with the authors, I found that they're obviously published, so they don't need to be out here publishing their short stories or different novel ideas because they already have that outlet, but they are doing a lot of newsletter style pieces. So even if you don't publish on Substack yourself, it's a great tool to be able to read and connect with others, especially going straight into your inbox rather than having to scour a blog or website in that way. In terms of it being free, it costs absolutely nothing to set up and post on in any capacity, but if you do have paid subscribers turned on, I have found that Substack gets 10% of every transaction from that. At the moment, I do not have paid subscribers, so I don't know more details than that, but it doesn't come out of your pocket from what I know, so it is still technically a free. It's only when you make money, they obviously will try and start making money too. I found that Substack really gives you all the perks of building a blog and audience without having to pay for a website and domain name and all the extra fidgety little things that no one wants to have to think about, let alone pay for. And the options on Substack are endless. It is not just a platform for writers to share their work or aspiring creatives to share. There is every single topic you can think of out there, from finance and relationships, and no matter what you are passionate about, whether that is using it as an outlet and inspiration to write, or just a way to indulge a different hobby and passion, I think Substack is a great platform for all to be able to benefit from. If you do want an example of how an aspiring author is using Substack to build their community, I have linked mine below, so you can check out the kind of content that I'm posting, that schedule, which by the way, it's so inconsistent, but at least getting our work out there is probably the most important step, that it doesn't matter at the moment of when you're posting and how often and that kind of thing. My third resource recommendation is author newsletters, which I know in the intro I technically said was not good, but I mean when you mass click subscribe to a bunch of authors in every style and every genre, it gets overwhelming and it just becomes spam. So be selective in who you choose, and author newsletters can be invaluable. So find a few authors that you love the work of or want to do something similar to, and follow them, subscribe to them, because they give great inside information, especially in their Q&As that they usually do. And it comes out at a very casual rate, I would say, because they are also just people too, rather than companies trying to push products and things out there. So once you do subscribe to a couple authors, I think the information there, it becomes almost very personal to be able to find out and then react to. So you can find a lot of information within author newsletters. Similarly, I think follow authors and publishing houses on social media, because again, the question and answers, the lives and more free resources that they share within social media as a whole is definitely a little sub recommendation on this one. So beyond the book content that an author or publishing house might be giving out, I say be there for any little nugget they are trying to give out, because it can be very invaluable and the perfect thing if they are aligned to your goals and your style and your inspiration. My personal author newsletter and just social media person to follow is definitely Victoria Aveyard. She is the author of the Red Queen and Realm Breaker series, and she's just very open with her craft and journey on being and staying published. My fourth resource can be considered, I think, a little bit controversial because it is writing competitions. I think competitions are great for when you're first starting out. It doesn't matter if you're a poet, a fiction writer, or non-fiction writer, short stories, novels, pieces. It's a great way to practice your craft as well as get used to deadlines and work with someone in receiving feedback and criticism. And I say it's controversial because so many competitions are not free. And I think when you are not yet making money from your writing, you do not need to go and put money in when there's a great chance you're not going to get it back. And I say that not because I don't believe that you have the chance to win the competitions and get their prizes and things. However, once you start paying for multiple competitions within a few weeks or months, and they have even just a $5 to $20 entry fee, the price racks up so fast and it might not be worth it. And that is because you're not only getting the information of if you won the competition or if you did well or whatever, and get to like put that, I guess, on your writing resume, but they also give out free feedback, which is so good to get just another voice and another perspective. And again, in my experience with competitions, I have had feedback that I completely disagree with, but also some incredible things that have made me realize what I need to critique and where I need to reframe. So take it however you want to take it. Other people's opinion, it does not define your work, but it's definitely good to get that scope and dip your toes into the water of receiving feedback specifically tailored to your pieces. Again, I guess plugging Readsy, they have a writing competition list, which I will also link below. But even if you just search on Google or whatever search platform you use, look up writing competitions 2020, whatever, like whenever the year is that you want to, there will be thousands of lists coming up that you can take from, especially if you add free in there. And you just have the deadlines right there. You have all the competitions that you can enter whether or not you want to and choose to. And even if you don't win these competitions, you've written a piece that is new and authentic to you. You have made a deadline, which is an incredible feat in itself. And then you can go and post it on your Substack, get that feedback or support from that community, and just be proud of what you have done. My next best free resource for aspiring authors is Spotify. It is one, I think the only one on this list that I can't live without because I use it every single day. You can use it for listening to writing podcasts, but obviously you knew that if you were here and listening on Spotify, because there are some really good ones out there for education and motivation when it comes to writing and the industry. I'm still in the process of figuring out which writing podcasts I love or not, but I will definitely shout some out when I do get into that a bit more. I also love Spotify because you can create individual character playlists and really flesh out the character arcs and how they're going to work within a story, or even just get into the writing mood. I've had complete breakthroughs for characters or plot points or whatever just from listening to one song that inspires you just enough that everything else falls into place. So whatever music or audio streaming platform that you have, definitely utilize it because they are priceless. I'm also really loving Spotify's new AI generated playlist, which might be a bit controversial, but if you're looking for inspiration, I think that could be a really good one to go in and even click just a couple of songs and try and make a new story out of it. My final free resource is another classic, Pinterest. This is the only one on this list that I've been using since the very start of my writing journey when I was 14, and you can use it for fleshing out characters and stories, visualizing or getting inspiration for scenes, or even going into the more ideas section based on what you've already saved on some of your boards. I truly can't write something, whether that is a short story or a novel, without picking out the vibe of the story, the characters, and the plot. It's truly how I see everything come together and build that life and the character voices, even if it's just picking some quotes that I think the characters themselves would emanate within their own speech, I guess. You can also get motivation, prompts, tips on Pinterest, and it's a really great platform for random threads about niche topics that you might need, such as the logistics of sword fighting or how to show abstract emotions. I personally have a whole board on Pinterest dedicated just to names and just different artworks that might inspire different stories, and even one that is just writing humor, just when you need a little bit more sense of connection and community, when you're feeling a little bit more unmotivated. So it's a great one to scroll through. And I still have some of the posts that I saved when I was 14, so it's funny to look back and know that there are some things that have gotten me through the worst dry spells and writing blocks, even from many years ago. Before I close up, I did also want to shout out to Instagram, because there is a whole writer and book side of Instagram that is so wholesome and helpful if you find it. I highly recommend it because it has very similar vibes to Pinterest, but definitely in a bit more of a live community feedback sense. So even if it's just a secret little account that you make and post some of your story ideas, people will find you, and if you support them back, then you can create some lifelong friends on Instagram. There are other unpublished writers that are just here trying to make the best of things for themselves. So that concludes my list of free resources for aspiring authors. To recap, I discussed Readsy, which is great for learning, Substack, which is for building a community, author newsletters for more personal experiences, competitions for feedback and general writing practice, and Spotify and Pinterest for tools to flesh out characters and get tips from fellow writers. Thank you so much for listening. As you can probably tell by now, I'm very passionate about this topic because I myself have been overwhelmed by how much writing tools and courses can cost, which at one point did feel imperative to being and becoming an author. However, I'm so glad to tell you that this is not the case, and there are so many options out there for every level of writer, paid or otherwise. I'll be back next time for another episode of the Unpublished Writers Club. Until then, make sure you check out the links below and send in any questions, and I'll try and cover them in a future episode. The advice shared on the Unpublished Writers Club is for informational purposes only, and should not be considered legal advice, career or otherwise.